Today we shall speak about the family of the saint. First of all, she is a French saint. Usually among the European countries, it is Spain and Italy who have given so many saints to the Catholic Church. And the French saints are very rare, though there had been one Sister Therese and her companions, the Carmelite nuns who were guillotined during the French Revolution, but we don't hear about many French saints. And Therese was a French woman, French saint. The family was from northwestern part of France. We may compare it to Rajasthan. And from Paris, it is about 200 kilometers west of, we have the town called Alençon. Both her father and mother were from Alençon. Though Louis Martin was born in southern city of Bordeaux because his father, Martin, was in the army, and the family moved from Alençon to Bordeaux. But on his retirement, the family came back to Alençon when Louis Martin was only 7 years old. The reason which prompted the family to move was to give a good education to the children. And Louis Martin attended the School of Christian Brothers. And when he reached Louis Martin, the age of 19, he wanted to learn a trade, that was watchmaking. He had later we'll see, he had a watch and jewelry shop. That means it was a middle-class family. While attending some classes in Alps in the border with Switzerland, he attempted to join the Benedictine, the congregation of Saint Bernard. But then he was asked to learn Latin. In those days, Latin was the medium of instruction in the seminaries. Though he engaged a private tutor to learn Latin, but he did not succeed. So he gave up. And then he came back to Alençon and started the shop. Though he was discouraged from becoming a seminarian, he was very much actively involved in parish activities. So much so that until 35, he never bothered about getting married. And his mother was anxious about the son. Then there is another girl, Azélie Guérin. She was from same town of Alençon, and there were 3 children. That means Azélie had the elder sister, Sister Dosity, a visitation nun, and her brother Isidore Guérin. And while Louis Martin's mother was anxious about the marriage of her son, she found Azélie, who came to the lace shop of Louis Martin's mother. I think it is she who selected or introduced Azélie to Louis Martin. And that was an ideal couple. And they got married in 1858, July 13th, in the church of Notre Dame of Alençon. At that time, Louis was 35 and Azélie was 28. There was a difference of 7 years between them. It is in this chapel, 15 years later, the church, Therese would be baptized. Her baptismal robe is still preserved as a monument, or rather a relic, in the church. And this couple, for the first 14 months of their marriage, avoided sex and avoided children. Maybe because Azélie was from a very traditional and family who had very rigid discipline, and she was scrupulous of having sex even in married life. Still, nevertheless, the confessor of Louis Martin and Azali advised them to have children. And he put it in a beautiful way, to have children for heaven. It is not for your physical sexual gratification. It's with having children for heaven. And the couple accepted the advice of the confessor. And in 13 years, 9 children were born, 7 girls and 2 boys. And 2 boys and 2 girls died at a very young age, and there remained only 5 sisters: Marie, Pauline, Leonie, Céline, and Therese. And when Therese was born, Azali could not feed her child on her breast because she had cancer, she had breast cancer. So child was entrusted to a nurse from a village called Rostaye, and that village house is still there. It is for the 14 months Therese was away from the mother, and she gets attached to the nurse. Later, when she comes brought back to the parents, then Therese again begins a normal life with a mother. Unfortunately, at the age of 4.5, Azali mother died. And on the day of funeral, when the family came back to the house, the maid, looking at the 5 children, she said, "Oh, poor children, they have no mother." And Maria jumped into the lap of, Céline jumped into the lap of Maria and said, "Maria would be my mother." And Therese, she says, "As I am used to imitate whatever Céline did, I also went to the lap of Pauline and said, Pauline would be my mother." And that will have a tremendous impact in the life and spiritual teachings of Therese. That relation between Pauline and Therese was not only blood relations. At one moment, Pauline would be the superior and Therese would be the subject in Carmel. And that's how we have the autobiography and so on. And when the family was left without the mother, with 6 girls, Azali's brother, Isidore Gurin, was a pharmacist. He had a medical shop in Lisieux. That is another town 100 kilometers north of Alençon, but on the western side of Paris. Between Paris and Lisieux, it is 180 kilometers. So Isidore asked the uncle to bring the girls to his home, his town in Lisieux, so that his wife, Céline Fournier, a wonderful woman who could take care of these 6 girls. And Isidore had 2 daughters, Jeanne and Maria. Jeanne was later married to the Doctor Maliekkal. We'll see about him later. And Maria entered Carmel, and she also died of tuberculosis. And it is how the family moved from Alençon to Lisieux. As Bishop Guy Gaucher, one of the experts in Therese spirituality, made a remark. Therese would have known as Therese of Alençon, and she became Therese of Lisieux because of their shifting the family from Alençon to Lisieux. There, they rented a house in a middle-class family, that picture we see often, the 2 ground floor, first floor, and attic. And it was a rented house. It is there the children spent the 14 years. And Pauline would enter CARMEL. And 4 years later, Maria would enter CARMEL. Though Maria was the eldest one, Pauline is the one who joined CARMEL. And third one, Leonie, was a problem case. She had her own psychological problems. She was not attractive as the other four girls. And she had eczema and cough, and she was physically ill and physically not looking, which affected also her psychological problems. She one day went away without telling Papa and joined the Poor Clares convent, and then came back. And later she would join the Visitation convent 3 times. That means unsteady character. But later, after reading the life of Therese, Leonie becomes a saintly person. And it is said, now her case also of canonization is taken up. I have gone to the church convent where Leonie was buried. There are so many people who come and pray, and we could find prayer requests. And finally, Céline. Céline joined the year after her father died. In between, I have to mention something, that is, Therese joined CARMEL in April 1888. The following year, Louis Martin had a mental illness, mental trouble. The modern experts say it was not a mental illness, it was a physical problem, arteriosclerosis, connected with the heart and bodily ailments, which has some psychological, mental reactions. But at that time, science was not that developed. The disturbance he showed seems to be a mental patient, and he was taken to Caen for treatment, and he remained there for 3 years. Céline, Maria, Pauline in CARMEL, Papa in the mental hospital, Leonie and Céline, to be by the side of Papa. They sought asylum as a boarder in a visitation convent in Caen. And the family was dispersed. Added to it, on 1809 December, the lease of the family, that Le Besonnet, ceased. So they had to vacate. By the way, Le Besonnet is 2 words, Le Besonnet, the bushes. And naturally, they had to vacate everything from the family, all the furniture, and including the dog Tom were taken to Lisieux CARMEL. That means, in John of the Cross language, a passive night of the spirit. Such a loving, united family becomes dispersed, all the 5 in different places. Even the house was given back. Everything came to apparently a ruin. And then Louis Martin, after 3 years, comes back, but there was no his own house. So he stayed with the Isidore family, and the following year the man died. So in that way, the children, they had a wonderful childhood, adulthood, and so on. Later, toward the end, there was a miserable, painful experience. And 1 year later, Céline would join CARMEL. It is Céline who has the credit of taking the photographs of Little Flower. She has taken, because we may wonder how could we could take such pictures in a cloistered CARMEL. Among the 47 pictures, there is one rare picture, that is the picture of a piece of cloth with which Celine wiped the cloth, this one tear. And that piece of little cloth is now kept as a relic in the Lisieux CARMEL. Isidore, the uncle, had given a camera of that old type, with the box and so on. That was a gift of those days. It's a precious gift. And he gave to the nieces. And it was with the Martins. When Celine joined CARMEL, she brought that camera to Lisieux CARMEL. And it is Celine who took all the 47 pictures of Little Flower. And this would be the general introduction to the family of Therese. One more thing I want to tell you. Both Louis Martin and Asselie Guérin were canonized on the 16th of October 2015. And I was present in the Vatican during that ceremony. So both parents are saints. Celine also, Therese also is a saint. It's a saintly family.